Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Aamir,
Salman,
And Shara.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes towards creating more and better content. Visit us at patreon.com/Khandaan podcast.
Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. My name is Asim Bernie and I'm joined with my lovely co-host Amrita and Sujoy. Hey Amrita, hey Sujoy.
hello everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Eid Mubarak. I think this
Eid
comes
Mubarak.
out when Eid will have dropped. It's funny to do it like in the past when it's not happened yet, but Eid
We're
Mubarak
such
to
professional broadcasters, like pre-recording for a joyous occasion, you know. This is the Eid special, but we're recording 3 weeks in advance.
So Eid with, we're coming with a banger, with a big movie. So I'm hoping, people enjoy it. It's one that they've been asking for a long time. But I also just wanted to say a little thing that was really bothering me. And I don't think we've talked about it in a while on the podcast, but I've been fasting this whole month, and like literally every prayer has been for Palestine. And I hope like with Eid, people take a moment to, just think about what's going on in the world and save a prayer for the poor kids in Palestine that are dying. It's been a big thing for me. Like I've been very emotionally involved with it. But like having fasted the whole month, having Eid, and like it's just like it's been weird to fast while there's a genocide been going on, like mass murder has been going on. When opening your fast and like thinking of kids that they're probably eating, grass and lemons, or not having food, or not arriving in time to get to the food truck and not even getting beans, or getting crushed by food parcels. And a lot of it has been really bothering me, and I felt for having such a large podcast, I felt I haven't talked about it in a while, so I think I wanted to talk about it again. And just my thoughts on Eid happening, and people just think, don't for 1 year, don't post your glamorous Eid feasts and your amazing clothes and stuff like that. Like just have a bit of constraint. I feel it's just I'm just like pre thinking about what's going to happen, and I don't want to judge anybody. Everybody do what you do. It's a tough world. If something is bringing you joy, let it bring you joy. But there is also so much sadness, and I think this time, even with the joy, a lot of the sadness is mixed in. So just wanted to kind of say that for our Eid special. I think that's it. Hard to segue from this, but let's try. We want to talk about Ghajini this episode, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have... first of all, actually, I want to read a message. This is a better segue. Actually, funnily enough, last week we were telling about this episode we did on Patreon, but Amrita was so happy to make fun of Sujoy that we actually never told people what the episode was. So let me just find the...
That's so typical. Making fun of Sujoy comes first.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're a patron, you'll be getting new content this week or the next week. But you also get early releases. And last week we recorded an episode on Amitabh Bachchan, a thing that we have been playing with. And a lot of times Patreon is also kind of like our experimental lab. We try something out, and if it works, if it hits, we might, repurpose it in a different way. So we did an episode on Bemisal, and we did one on Bemisal and Sohag, Amitabh's classic movies. And we got a lot of emails from our listeners, positive ones. And this is one I wanted to read from Nika. I'm writing this after listening to the Bachchan Nostalgia episode, and I just wanted to see, please give us more of these, if it makes commercial sense, as I agree completely with Asim on this. I certainly enjoyed it a lot because there were elements in it that felt new to me, and also because it was clear that you guys are passionate about those movies and his work, which makes listening to you talk about it an enriching experience. Thanks again for continuing to create this wonderful podcast and for all the work you do to make it what it is. Love, Nika. So that was a very nice, positive email from Patreon. And if you were a patron, you could have listened to that episode. So sign up for $1. Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah. Should we do more? Like, I don't know if people love the nostalgia of it or people love the Amitabh of it. I still can't figure that part out. What do you guys think?
I was actually thinking that we could do like more nostalgia things, because it's not just Amitabh, but I mean, we all have our favorite Manmohan Desai movies. We all have our favorite Mithunda movies. We all have like so many like Sri Devi movies. Like we have like so many different things that we could talk about. It's just that we don't usually do that on the main podcast because it doesn't really make sense for the kind of listenership that we usually attract. But I'm sure there are like people out there who either have not watched or heard of or don't really appreciate that kind of movie, but might get an introduction to it through us,
I think like we all three of us share like that decade or 2 decades of Bollywood growing up. Like it was because we grew up in the 80s and the 90s where that's where our formative years of pop culture Bollywood entertainment comes from, but we were also exposed through our parents to the 70s and the 80s and even the 60s movies, and then we also then grew up to watch like the 2000s Bollywood. So there's a whole lot of nostalgia over the decades that we have sort of built in our banks, and we did not consciously build them. We know all of these because that was a part of our growing up, right? So I think a lot of people do share that, and I think us discussing that from our three perspective of growing up in different parts of the world, and all of that would be very, very interesting, I think.
We were also the last video cassette generation, right? Like
Yeah.
the last generation of people that were just like getting videos from the library and then just watching like random things, like what does the library have this week? Like that's what we'll watch, So
Did you guys watch that Korean show Netflix, Physical 100?
I haven't, no.
It's like this muscle steroid kind of like survival show. And I was thinking there should be a show like that where we just send 100 kids and they have like old technology that they need to figure out. Like, the first has to set a VCR for a recording at 9:00. Like, and then use a dial tone, send a fax and see how many survive the end of it. And I'm thinking that because I saw this TikTok the other day and it was like this guy who was like a Bollywood content creator. I don't have the name, unfortunately. And he said like, there was something just so magical about Bollywood ADR. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Talk more. Let me listen. And he's like, I just love classic ADR. I grew up on these old school movies of Akshay Kumar. I was like, what? Akshay Kumar? Yeah. I was like, so what Sujoy is basically saying is just we're old basically. That's
we have to admit that, right?
That's what it's about. We haven't built up nostalgia. We're just old as
Yeah.
It's like that stupid Twitter discourse that happened a few weeks ago when Austin Butler had one of those letterboxd interviews, and they were asking him, like name your letterbox does for people who are not permanently online. Letterbox does these videos where they go up to people like celebrities and they say like name your 4 favorite movies. And it's become a bit of a contentious thing because a lot of people are really quick to call the celebrities pretentious because, they're not like saying like Top Gun and Mission Impossible. So they went up to poor Austin Butler, whose one of the movies that he chose was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is by, starring Clint Eastwood. And literally everybody on Twitter was just like, oh my God, like who does he think he is? Why don't these celebrities ever talk about movies that they've watched? And I'm just like, what do you mean? Like that movie was like, and maybe it's because like I grew up with a brother who was obsessed with Clint Eastwood as a child, but I like these are not like, I guess, like, it's cable and video cassettes. Like I said, like, we were raised by cable and video cassettes. So we just watched a lot of stuff that we maybe would not have automatically sat down or chosen to watch. Like if you're on Netflix and you're just sort of flipping through, maybe there are things that you wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily want to watch. But back in the day, you didn't really have an option. It was like you had like one TV. And you watched what your mom wanted to watch or your dad wanted to watch, or like, whatever the local video cassette wala wanted you to watch. So there was like an entire hierarchy of people who decided what kind of entertainment was coming your way, and you came at the very bottom of that list. So yeah, I think it's a good idea, but I think for now we're just going to keep it on Patreon and see what the response is like, and then maybe we can figure out a way to bring it to our general listenership if they are interested.
So yeah, I think I'm gonna ask this to the audience, but we're gonna listen more to Patreon. What they say is that so join Patreon. But it's good. I'm wondering, should we do an Amitabh series or should we do a nostalgia series where we could talk even about Anil Kapoor movies and stuff like that and make that into a series, or we do just Amitabh? So I kind of wonder what the format would be, because I'm a product guy. I'm always thinking what would work as a concept. So that would be cool, because I got a lot of like Anil Kapoor movies that I want to revisit. But yeah,
Listen,
fun. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say we're doing Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman next episode, and I was watching it with my daughter, and we were watching it, and it's not like a Rocky on Rani Prem Kahani kind of movie, right? It's very like basic. And she skipped it after Laveria. She was, I'm out, Papa. I'm going to my room. And I was like, Aajkal ke bacche, like, we would have sat through that whole thing, But she was like, Laveria, no, this is not a nice song, I'm out. So
But talking of Anil Kapoor, I found out like an amazing factoid, which is the perfect segue to our main review this episode, which is Ghajini. And this dates back to when Anil Kapoor was making a splash in Hollywood. And one of the people that he was cozying up to was one Mr. Christopher Nolan, who made a movie called Memento. And apparently he went up to Anil and was just like, hey, so I hear they remade one of my movies. And Anil Kapoor was like, yes, it's called Ghajini and it's a huge hit in India. And Nolan was like, yeah, well, they didn't pay me for any of that. And he was like, well, like they just stole my idea and just remade my movie and they didn't pay me any kind of like anything. So then Anil came back to India, called up Aamir and was like, did you know that Christopher Nolan is very upset with you? And see, I don't want particularly to be invited to say Manat for a party. I don't want to be like part of like a Bollywood wedding or like Nita Bhabhi's parties.
I do.
I do not. What I want is to be a fly on the wall when this conversation goes down between like Anil Kapoor and Aamir Khan. Anil is like, did you know? And then I just want to know what Aamir, like, how did Aamir respond?
No, but the funny part is the conversation can now keep going, because Nolan can say, and then I heard you also ripped off The Prestige and made it Doom 3. Like you doubled down instead of apologizing.
Weren't they on the same stage at on like, I don't know, like a few years ago or something, like Aamir and or Nolan or like something? I feel like that happened. And that it was like, and I think like Nolan brought it up even then. It was just like, hey, remember that time you just like stole my idea? But these are the things that I want to experience firsthand. I'm just very sad that I never got to. But
I have
anyway.
a question. Have you guys seen the Tamil movie on which this is made? Yeah.
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't.
But I think I saw it like around the time that it came out, which is
Okay.
a long time ago.
2005. 2005, the original Tamil
Yeah,
Ghajini came out, and then
yeah.
2008, Ghajini
This
was
one came
remade
out.
with the same director,
Yeah. AR
Murugadoss.
Murugadoss. Yeah.
And I mean, if the people don't know, this is a story of a short term memory loss patient goes on a killing spree in order to avenge the death of his lady love. I mean, this movie was massive. I think in 2008 is already a funny time because there's a lot of listeners that might have not experienced the hype, or they were too small when this movie released, right? They were already like on the cusp of it being that far. So I just wanted to start with the hype of this movie first, because this was a phenomenon that we had almost never seen. Like, just before the marketing happened, remember, like Amir Khan was giving everybody haircuts.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Like, yeah, he was like, there were like a whole bunch of kids with, like, he was shaving off their head and putting the line in like the scar, and like everybody was like, he had whole armies of fans that had cut that hair, and they were like coming to the cinema, like Amir Khan. It was like a massive
I think that
marketing
was
campaign.
like a scale to measure the hype behind a movie, that because you had the Bachchan hair from the back in the day, or the Rajesh Khanna hair, and then you had the Tere Naam hair, right? And
Yeah,
then
Tere
it
Naam
was
Hai, yeah.
and then you had Ghajini hair, or the
Yeah.
lack of it.
And I mean, this is also a movie that set the records on at the box office. Like, I think
Mhm.
when what we think of, like, what 100 crore clubs is, this was the
Yeah.
first movie that really set those records, and people got obsessed with box office
Yeah.
more than any other movie. And I think we still, like, in a way, like, when they say Jaws is the reason we have blockbuster movies.
Summer
um
blockbuster.
yeah, Ghajini is the reason we have samosa trade critics. Like, this is like the equivalent of it.
Taran Adarsh owes it to Ghajini.
um, yeah, so there was a haircut, there was a box office receipts, and the big thing is the body transformation,
Mhm.
which there's still a YouTube video of Amir Khan's body transformation. I think he did it for Bollywood Hangama back in the day when it used to be good, when, our man with the topi was there. What's his name again? Faridun was there, when things were good
Mhm.
at Bollywood Hangama. And it is an amazing video. Like, the body transformation Amir went through to get this body at that time was amazing. But now you look at it, and it's like basically a Varun Dhawan body. Like, it's not that. You know what I mean? What did you
Yeah.
guys think about it, like, looking back at the body?
Um, I mean, it's still Amir Khan. Yeah, it's still funny when he's like so buffed, and then he starts running, and I'm like, he's only covering like 100 meters in more than 30 seconds.
Those short legs move
I'm
really
sorry,
fast.
man. I'm sorry. It's
Uh,
really hilarious. I can't. Amrita, I stole your joke there, but
You know what I was thinking the whole time? Do you remember like that guy Sahil Rez who used to have those that
visual idiot. Yeah.
the visual, yeah, the visual idiot? If those of you who are too young to have followed that particular series, he used to do like a cartoon movie reviews, basically. Like, that's what it was, and they were hilarious. But I just remember how like I can't remember if he was like he had done one for Ghajini or not, but there's a way that he used to draw Salman
hmm
in
It's a
on
stick figure, but with added balls on it. It's just the biceps to indicate it's Salman.
and I just like that is exactly what Amir looks like, but in like flesh and blood.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like Amir's tiny head on top of like these little like flotation devices that he's calling muscles. It's just the most incredibly disproportionate body ever. It's just
Not to
like
take
really,
away from all the hard work and steroids
I
that he
mean,
took for this.
yes. I mean, yes. The number, like, he must have. Yeah. It again, like, I don't know how these men, like, how do they survive doing that to their bodies? Like, because like Amir is not hitting the gym as a lifestyle. He's definitely doing the body transformation thing. Um, and I can only imagine the kind of price that he's paying for it. As a present day Amir.
And this is the first of the third when he was still young. He's done it
Mhm.
again for Dangal. He's done it again for Dhoom. And he was much, much older when those. And I mean, honestly, he's still super fit. Like, like after this, all of the Khans became very fit. Like, Shah Rukh, once he did Om Shanti Om, he's had that six pack since then. Amir has been, built since then. So, and at this stage, he was quite younger. And funny enough, I feel his body here doesn't look as good as it did in Dangal and Doom 3, so it was kind of the first, but it was a massive thing to the point where they had a great part of the great marketing was also they had one of the best Daska Dam episodes with Salman, if you guys remember, where they came on the cycle on Do Mastane and all that kind of
Oh,
thing. It's still,
really?
yeah, it's really still a good episode. It's available on YouTube. People can watch it. And it like at that point, Salman, they were asking Salman about where's your body. I was like, Salman was like, dude, I have this body all the time. Shah Rukh had it for one movie, or Salman Amir had it for one movie. So it's quite funny that his body was so good that people are asking Salman questions. It was like, how dare you? Another thing that this movie started, and we're still not into the movie, is also the southification wave of Bollywood. That started and only recently ended, I would say. Like it took like almost 15 years of our lives having to watch Bollywood remake South movies, right? And I think it was funny because when it started and they were all doing it, like Wanted and Tere Naam and this and and the Southification was almost like saving of the box office at that time. It was like, it was like trickle down economics, when we thought we would all get rich out of it, but it was a farce. We just got scammed. So, and it was also just funny. I was thinking about it, like how it works in like a pyramid level, like, like a trend in Bollywood. It's like first you get the top level with the Khans, you go down, you have the Akshay and the Ajay Devgans, then you have the Ritiks and Shah Rukhs, Shahids, then you have the Arjun Kapoors, and then Kartik Aaryan kills the genre entirely.
With Shehzada, we all became fakir.
We got scammed, we were holding on for too long until it was worthless. What do you guys? It's done, right? Like the Southification is kind of done. What do you feel looking back at
I
it
don't
now?
think. I think with Pan India, that whole thing is kind of moot at this point. Like nobody's going to remake a movie like that. I don't know. Unless like a Salman or a Shah Rukh or Amir does it,
Yeah,
seems to be.
the shot for shot remake, I
Mhm.
think. I think Shehzada pretty much like really brought it home that that's not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
Especially because the South Indian stars are now pretty big stars, like
Yeah.
on their own right. Like Allu Arjun is a way bigger star than Kartik Aaryan. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like there's just no way that you can argue that that's not true. Um, so like like a Mahesh Babu film or an Allu Arjun film, a Yash film, all of these are releasing in dubbed Hindi, and we might
Simultaneously.
simultaneously, and we might have our opinions, like the three of us might have our opinions about the dubbed versions, and like we might not like it. We might be, well, not Sujoy, but like Asim and I are subtitles people. And
We're snobs.
yeah. Sujoy is like me. I'll just
Like I don't feel the need to give more effort to movies like those. Like I'm okay with just passively consuming it when it comes to like a Mahesh Babu or a Yash movie.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I mean, I used to watch Mahesh Babu films without subtitles and without dubs, like, and I don't even speak Telugu like that. But these are like movies that are, I mean, the kind of movies that the South Indian action masala movie is generally meant to appeal to the largest possible audience. So it's not like, so it's like if you understand the jokes and the cultural nuances, then that's like Sone Pe Sohaga. It is not the point of the film, however. The point of the film is that you need to be able to understand how this plot is going to move. You need to understand the beats of the story. It's very classical storytelling. And it makes sense to me that, like that's what Bollywood tries to do as well. But of late, I mean, like, with the whole like southification as we were talking about, but that's not Bollywood's strength, though. Like the iconic Bollywood movies, whether we're talking about Amar Akbar Anthony, or whether talking about DDLJ, or we're talking about I don't know, like anything, like Dangal, for example. Like these are all movies that require you to do a bit more, like invest a bit more in the movie than just sort of passively consume it, you know? And it's we've just, I mean, Bollywood's just spent like 100 years training its audience to respond to a certain kind of cinema. And then I think they thought that they could just make that audience flip and accept the other kind. And I don't think it's worked out that well for them, to be honest.
And it's not, I mean, it's not done. There are still movies that are coming. I know
Yeah.
that Akshay Kumar has a remake of that flight movie with Surya, the
Yes,
airline
yes,
movie
yes,
that's
yes.
coming out.
Uh-huh.
I know
yeah.
Sanya is doing a
The Great
remake
Indian
of
Kitchen.
the Great Indian Kitchen. And so there are a few. I know Varun Dhawan is also making a remake. So it's not done, but I just don't think it has that guarantee success to box
Yeah.
office that it did when Ghajini and that era was happening, right?
Yeah.
This is also the last movie of Jiah Khan. And
Oh man.
yeah, that it was, and she's so good in this. She is so good in
She's
this.
lovely. That song, she's fire in that song. She's so good. Like she deserved so much better.
She really had that Britney Spears era of dancing and look down at that time, and she was so good. And I was so, is one of the things that annoys me so much about Ghajini is how they edited that song down, because it's literally like 45 seconds that we get to see her on screen, but it looks amazing. I wish they released the whole 3 minutes of the song like as a clip, but it never really happened. But yeah, she's really, really good in this, and it just fills you with so much sadness seeing her on screen and what happened to her and the chances she didn't get. Yeah, Sujoy, what did you think of Jiah Khan in this movie?
She was all right.
You didn't feel what we were feeling?
No, this is literally all right. Like, it was definitely very, very sad what happened in her real
Yeah.
life, right? But in this movie, she was all right. Like I thought, like Asin's song was way better. A Bachu was like, well, I think both songs had that very MTV quality about it, and how
Yeah.
it is shot. It's very of that era, you know. Like after that, it became the whole T series, run of, operational, just churning out one video after another, where every video looks like a clone of each other. But this one had that MTV spunk. Like there is a particular aesthetic, and I think I prefer the Asin song, but both of them are like really good.
You heartless
So,
person.
I will say though, like, I remembered Asin's character being like really annoying in this
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
But I had forgotten that Jia's character is equally annoying. like the women in this film, like my
Yeah.
God, like they're terrible. They're just absolutely fucking terrible and charmless. Like, yeah.
I think like the movie is telling women, be careful of being too nice. This is what happens to you if you're being too nice, and like, oh my God, she's like written by I don't know what sort of worldview does Murugadoss have to have written Asin's character like this. Like, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So this Ghajini is basically not it's a remake of an adaptation. So this is something that doesn't happen a lot of times, but that's
Mhm.
what it is. The original Memento by Christopher Nolan is like a meticulously crafted piece, philosophical piece, how our memories lie to us, how there is a futility in revenge. Are our memories lying to us? Do we even know what is true, what is not true? Ghajini makes no sense like compared to that.
Yeah,
Straight up revenge drama. Because when you think about it, for 2 minutes, this is like apparently the richest man in India. Like
yeah,
his management team is acting like they're the FBI. Like that's how they act. There is no way a rich man of those resources would not be able to go after some small time gangster. Like Gajini is not like some big don. He's just like a little, street hustler. He's not that high up of a level. But I think it's just the art of making a movie like this. And I mean, I'm gonna compare like two names that do not need, like, if you, but it's the genre of filmmaking that even Rajamouli has, right? Like the emotion and conviction of the movie making is so strong that you just completely get caught up with what's happening,
mhm.
and you forget that none of this makes any sense,
Yeah.
like none of it. Like, who is his tattoo artist? Like, how did he get those tattoos on the back? Like, how is he reading? Like, so much
Also,
doesn't. Hmm.
like, why does Jia Khan's character like inform on him to Ghajini? Like, what is that? Like, that makes no sense. Like, when you think about it, because like, why wouldn't she go to the police? She just goes to like Ghajini and is like, oh, like, like he's gonna like come after you. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and Gajini does not has a reliable face. Like no 20-year-old girl will be going to uncle like help me please. Like it doesn't make any sense.
My
Uh,
biggest big question is, this is a industrialist who wears really, really cropped t-shirts, really tight shirts, um, and that's the first part of the story. And then he has his memory loss, right? And then like he's now basically Dory. So like during that transition we see him like bodybuilding in his apartment, but then like where does he learn the combat skills? Like he is a one-man army, that is never shown. Like he have a old boy type of TV where he's like just punching walls? And I don't know, that was never shown, so I don't know how he can really take down a whole gang. And why doesn't he hire people to take down the gang on his behalf?
yeah, like all of those mechanics make absolutely no sense,
Mhm.
but I think it's just you get caught up in the movie making of it that
Yeah.
you just don't, if you don't take a minute. And I think that's smart, like, because
Mhm.
the movie is not boring,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
take that minute to say, oh, actually this makes no sense, right? But because the filmmaking is so propulsive and the emotions are so high, you just get caught up. And I think it's, for me, had you rewatched this movie since when it came out, Amrita?
No,
No.
no.
To be
No.
honest, I had first watched it on a very pirated DVD, because this came out like the year I went to the UK, and it was like I didn't have much money to go to the cinemas, and yeah, I was studying also, and so
Yeah.
I had watched it on a camera back in the day. So I don't have necessarily like really good memories about watching Ghajini in the first place. So it was nice to watch it on a good print now, but like it has aged definitely. Like it does feel like a very late 2000s kind of a movie, especially with the action scenes, which was the kind of highlight when it came out, right? It was such a great action movie that's not been done in Bollywood. It's quite violent, and the violence is quite brutal, but it's kind of tame now. But anyway.
Yeah. What about you, Amrita? How did it feel revisiting it?
It was pretty much the same as I remembered it. Like, to
Hmm.
be honest, like it wasn't like there wasn't anything about the filmmaking that made me go like, oh shit, like like this is how they innovated, or like this is how like things changed or this was revolutionary. Like there was none of that. It's a very competently made action movie.
What I did find interesting was that in a lot of the South Indian movies that came after it, especially after the whole 300 style of action scenes were shot, there is no speed ramping, like there is no slow motion, and then again the jerky editing comes. The editing and the action scenes are really throw you in the middle of the action, so you can see what's happening. So that's good.
I also have not rewatched this movie a lot of times. I did remember really loving it, and actually watching it now, for me, this is still a 10 on 10 movie. I really absolutely love it. Like everything I like about Bollywood movies, this has. I enjoyed it so much, and I was totally caught up with all of the things that this movie is serving me. And I'll even go further. I just enjoy this movie more than Memento. Like I do. Like I understand. Like there's an intellectual brain that appreciates Memento for what it is, but I just like this movie more. It hits my gut much better. And just because the love story is so sweet, and I think a lot of it is basically Asin, right? Like, and I understand what you're saying, Sujoy. She's really written as a manic pixie dream girl, and I think at that time that was the template of quirky girl just living her life, and somebody falling in love. Like she does absurd things, but they just look sweet, like when she's helping the kids out and like what a unique situation you have to be in, that these kids have a gait and they're also like crippled, and you can also take them to the museum one after the other, and they hadn't done no planning. But Aamir sees that, he falls in love, and she's very talkative, and she lives in her own world, and she has no understanding of what she's saying to who. And it's also just that pre-cell phone era, pre-celebrity era, slightly, So it all kind of works in gels in that world, and I don't think it's written it's clearly written by a man, that role, right? But as a man, she also really is appealing. She's really she's very sweet. She's very loving. She's very And I also like the fact that when Aamir is confessing that he loves her, she kind of takes a moment to think about it. Should I? I thought that was kind of cool too. I really, really liked Asin, and I think did we do Ready with her last time when we reviewed it? I don't know which movie we reviewed over last time. And I just thought it's a shame that her career got cut short, because she was one of those actresses that could really stand up to the male actors like the Akshays and the Salmans and the Amirs. And there's not a lot of women after this era that could, because they really swerved to younger actresses after this. And they stopped really working with the Juhis and the Madhuris and stuff like that. And Asin was one of those that could match them at that level, and I thought she was really, really great in this in this movie. What did you think of Asin?
I mean,
you're not a fan, right? I remember from our discussion last time you're not a fan of hers, right?
I'm not a fan. I don't know. There's just something about her that I just don't connect with.
Do you think she's an anti-vaxxer?
I have no idea. But she's just I do recognize the fact that she did a good job in this movie. She that scene where she's telling Aamir that he has the chance to be on a billboard on the way to the airport in his kachas. It is genuinely one of the funniest scenes that I've seen, where she's and she knows how to be the straight man, that's a rare talent for a lot of people. But I don't know, for a leading lady, I need to be attracted as well as empathetic, and I need to be charmed, and there's so many things that go into falling in love with the leading lady. And for me, Asin doesn't really check those boxes. She's very pretty, she's very good at her job, but that's about it as far as I can see it.
Mhm.
I would love, and I'm saying this as a Malayali, like, like a fellow Malayali. I 100% want to feel like, oh my God, she's like the best thing ever. But I just don't think she is. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you not liking her. I don't understand why. Like, I just don't
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
What about you,
Yeah.
Sujay?
The feeling is mutual. Yeah, I'm like she's pretty on screen. She's really great, but yeah, I don't hype her.
Feels nahi ho rahe.
Naif
Yeah.
feels nahi hai. Like
Uh,
I think Anushka would do a much better,
oh yeah,
you know,
yeah.
in this role. So you know where my feels are.
Of course, of
Sujoy
course.
just very casually throwing out like bait for Asim. It's like, really? You like Asim? How about Anushka then? And Asim immediately folds and it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, of course, of course.
Guys, I was yesterday doing the washing up, and I was thinking of Anushka's movies while doing the washing up. I was like, "Yeah, when is she coming back? Like, I haven't seen her on screen." And so I was just like, cleaning bartans while doing that. I did find it funny that she had this whole. Also, they not only do they rip off Memento, but they also rip off Amelie in this movie, which
Yes.
I'd also completely forgotten, where she has this whole sequence where she's like guiding a blind man and then confusing him with all the things he cannot see. So it's like, why are you doing this? But it seemed charming back in the day, but like also in this movie, it feels very forced because it doesn't seem like
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
real or something that would happen in India.
And
This,
then it's funny because Amir's just, a fly in the wall, spectating and falling in love with her because, oh, she's a problem solver, but also like she's such a kind-hearted person. And it's like, okay, Amir, I get it.
But that's also because Amir's company does not have a good HR policy, right? There's not a lot of diversity. He's surrounded by dudes all the time.
Yeah.
He's showing off his biceps as much as he can, and he's just getting no love from them, So obviously, the first
Yeah.
female he comes across, he's gonna just like madly fall in love, right? I had completely forgotten that this movie had a cop and a really bad one.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. It's like, it's like the worst cop I've ever seen in my life. And then Amir just like kicks his ass and then puts him in a locker that's way too high for him to put anybody in that locker. Like, have you noticed? She opens the locker like yay high, and the guy falls out, and is like, how did Amir put him there? Like, it's impossible. Like,
Hydraulics.
A very tall ladder, Asim. That's how.
and then the guy just dies in a bus accident. Like he's like
Yeah.
dead because of a. Have you seen that game of that GIF of Rachel McAdams in what was it? Game show? Which movie is that again?
Oh yeah, the game. Yeah,
The
it is
game show.
the
Oh,
game
he's
show.
dead now.
I was like, oh no, he died. That was literally me when the guy he's like, oh no, he died. Okay. Yeah. So, what did you think of like the villain and the revenge story? And because the funny part is in the way the movie is structured is like in Memento, the big reveal is who is John G, right? Like who is the villain? Here, the villain reveal, he's out in the open. Everybody knows him. College students can just call him. So that's not the reveal. The reveal is how Amir's character became what he became, right? And I think
Yeah.
it's quite smartly done because the flashback happens in like 2 or 3 times. So
Yeah.
you're kind of reading
Also
these diaries.
the diary part, like because the diary ends on 31st of December, and then
Yeah.
you go to the next part of the flashback as somebody else picks up to read it,
Yeah.
at a later point. And also the mystery behind the build-up is basically because his memory gets wiped out every morning he wakes up, he has to remember, and then every morning he has this
Relive
whole
that.
it's that 51st dates kind of situation where he's like every day or every 10 minutes he has to realize that he has to take this revenge and what his existence means. And so from that to going to that level of remembering that he has to revenge upon this particular man who changed his life forever is quite interesting, and how he showed.
Yeah, and it gives us a chance to say kya acting kar raha hai,
Ekdam. Oh my god, so much acting
So much acting, na?
in front of the mirror. Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's really works really well, again, I'm comparing it to Memento, because Memento is almost like you don't know who killed his wife. Was it an accident? What does he remember? Here, the level of brutality of that murder is so high. I think it's one of those like murders in Bollywood that is still people use on Twitter a lot. The GIF comes a lot, is the saddest thing and this and that. But it's genuinely heartbreaking the way it's shot, right? Like, did that work for you, Amrita, or is it like
That was
submergent?
that was one of the best sequences I feel in the film, and it holds up like
Yeah.
after all these years. Like it's brutal, but it's also like super sad. It comes at like the perfect time in the film. The reactions of both Asin and Amir are like really great, and it really does center the film, because you up until then, like, you don't like really understand the depth of, like, just how bad things went for Kalpana and what's the normie name, Sachin,
Yeah.
right? Like, what was it, Sachin? Yeah. For like Kalpana and Sachin, like, like what really happened. Like Sanjay Singhania is because Sanjay is like taking revenge not just for himself, but he's taking for two people. He's taking it for both Sachin and Kalpana, because Sachin also died that day.
Yeah.
It's just that Sanjay continues to survive, but but like that entire little family thing that they were building, the fact that she invited him in, like, to become a part of her home, like when she does the grave pravesh, and then she puts both their feet in
was
that
sweet.
thing. Like, that was like really lovely little bits and pieces. And I'm not a huge fan of fridging the wife to give the lead, some sort of character depth. But in this movie, I feel like they did a really good job of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just this tragedy that he never got to tell her his real identity. Like, she
Yeah.
died
Yeah.
before she actually got to know him. And there's just something so sad in that. And I love how, like, that part is so sad. And then the ending, I'm going to the ending of the movie completely, is that Kaise Mujhe Tum Mil Gaye, the second verse that comes in with the
Yeah.
female voice. It is so beautiful as a final shot, and all of the emotion kind of gets back that these are two people now together in his memory, locked in. And there's just something so poetic of him just sitting alone with the memory of her. The only thing he has is the memory of her sitting alone on the bench. And it's such a bittersweet moment where it does talk about the futility of all of the things he did. Like, okay, he is at ease, he's taken his revenge, but at the end he's just sitting alone on the bench with the memory of her, and there's something so sad about that. And it's so beautifully sung also. We need to get into Rahman's music here a little bit, which is a massive part of it, right? Amazing soundtrack, right? Amazing soundtrack. I don't know if you guys agree. I mean, it's not one of those soundtracks that I think people rank in one of the best. Like, this is not going to win any ranking or stuff like that. But when you listen to it in the context of the music, it's very much that era of AR Rahman. Like, you can really, like, especially when you're the E Bachu song with Asin, those guitar riffs that are going on, that's such a Rahman thing of that era. He doesn't do that anymore, right?
I think
it's just
it was very popular in Tamil as well when he did the Boys soundtrack, and it kind of reminded me, that was when it started, and it kind of culminates in this soundtrack. And I really enjoy the soundtrack, but I think the ARM bracket spoiled it for me, because Becca went against Hai Rama or something, or Mangtaik, and people voted for Becca, and I was like, why?
Oh, they voted for Becca. Okay.
Yeah.
So
or
कैसे
Guzarish maybe.
कैसे मुझे तुम मिल गए is actually on it, like it's in my it's part of my regular rotation on my phone. Like I listen to it quite often, and it's funny because like I said, I haven't watched the film since it came out, but the soundtrack is something that I listen to off and on. You know, it's
I
really
think
good.
that song is so good that it kind of supersedes the movie even, like I
Yeah.
think anybody can still sing it or cover it or remix it and it's still a banger of a song. It's honestly one of A.R. Rahman's best, I would say, and it's not one that people rate as much, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, beautiful composition.
I agree.
We need to talk about the Beka song,
Yeah.
Amrita.
I love it. I don't know what Sujoy is talking about. Like,
No, I
it
love
was
it. I love it, but it's not Mangta Hai Cat, you know what I mean?
fair. Yeah, like it's like Sujoy said, it's like very MTV,
Mhm.
or like what
It's
Asim
very
was saying.
Justin Timberlake. Oh, why to do that?
So much fedora,
Yeah,
so much fedora.
Yeah, oh my
yeah.
god.
But Gia sells the heck out of that song.
Mhm.
Like she's just fun to watch.
No, you're talking about Lattu. We're talking about
Oh,
Beka. Beka
sorry, Becca. Oh, sorry.
is the seven
Yeah.
Amirs in a fedora. That's the one we're
Yes. Oh,
talking
that's the
about.
one. Okay. Um, yeah. I mean, yes. I think like Asim basically was asking me,
Asim
like,
was baiting you.
yeah, Asim was like, here is Amrita's biggest nightmare. And it was like 7 Amirs in like 7 outfits.
None of them acceptable.
I
None
swear
of them
to
acceptable.
Styled
God,
by Van Heusen.
what was that?
So
Like,
much
it was just.
chesticles. So many chesticles in like
So
seven
many
different
nipples. So
14,
many nipples.
14
I
nipples.
just. I genuinely like I get it, like he worked really hard for that body, so he needs to just sort of like show it off. But my God, my eyes. I mean, I just no, absolutely not.
I
There's
also
a
like this.
sorry, go ahead,
Sorry.
Asim.
No, I also like in the clip because they're also dating at that time, right? So
Hmm.
Amir is doing poor people things, like having like golgappe and like eating watermelon and drinking chai from dirty cups, and he's looking at it as like, oh, these poor people. But he does nothing. He does with this knowledge. He doesn't learn as a
Oh,
multi-billionaire.
he starts drinking chai from the saucer at a board meeting.
Yeah. He doesn't improve anybody's life. He just becomes Batman. Like that's like he
Yeah.
learns nothing.
My favorite section from Becca is the bit where the song goes from a pop MTV track to a rock section where the chorus sings Becca man, and it's like proper drum section comes.
Yeah,
That's
so good,
my
huh?
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, really good. And then Guzarish also,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Javed Ali. Oh,
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah, that's
Shot
like
beautifully.
yeah, shot beautifully as well.
Yeah.
But Amir's fashion choices again very very questionable.
But it's like, I think, like, we were watching The Crew, right? Like, I think Guzarish, if Guzarish didn't happen, that shot of Naina wouldn't have happened. The way, like, they're standing on the wings and the thing. It's very like that aesthetic of that flying long veil kind of thing. Reminded me a lot of that. It's such a, and also I think they went to Namibia or something like that to shoot that song. It's really beautiful and again a beautiful composition. I also liked in the first version of Kaise Mujhe Tum Mil Gaye that she sells the car for him. I thought that was really, really sweet because he just basically tells this random story that his mom is sick and he has to go back to the village. I think even he is like, he's done with his lie and he's putting no effort into the lies. He's like nani mar gayi, that kind of level of. So basically, kids do when they don't do their homework, and she had this idea that she's going to buy 3 ambassador cars and then she was going to be a success and then she could get married. She ended up buying 1 car, but then she sells it for Aamir and he takes the money. He doesn't just tell her at that point. No, I'm a multi-billionaire. He still takes the money, keeps the lie going. But
Like smart Asin did not sell the flat though, because Mumbai real estate is the big one.
no,
um,
he gave her the flat, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so
Yeah.
what's your favorite track in the soundtrack then?
Kaise mujhe tum mil gaya is my favorite. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Guzarish is close. Like, it's Guzarish is close. And there's elements in the other songs too. Like, the drums that you're saying, the guitar riff, the clip of Lattu, I really, really like. There's something so energetic about it. The way it comes in and the song really drops. It's like a perfect pop kind of song of that era. Yeah, I don't know. Amrita, what's your favorite song? Oh, I mean, you kind of said it, right?
Yeah, it's Kaise Mujhe Tum Mil Gaye, especially
Yeah.
the part with the female version, like where she comes in with like that's my favorite bit.
Yeah. One more other thing that I really liked about this movie generally is the moment that it does veer into the horror elements of it, and I think those are done really, really well. I think like that one sequence, which is unnecessary, but it works really well. Again, this is the theme of the movie: is when Amir Khan is going after Jia Khan's character in the hostel.
Yeah.
He's really shown as like Michael Myers or like, Freddy
Yeah.
Krueger coming to kill her, and I think that's very, very well done. It's like pure horror, right? And then also just that sequence where the villains capture him and they erase all of his tattoos with the tattoo gun. Again, I think it's quite brutal. Like, if you think about like this man, this is the only cedar he has to his past life, and you erase all of that. It's such a brutal thing, right? Like, instead of just killing him, they do that to him. And then also just the fight sequence. I think they're very inspired of that movie by Jet Li, Danny the Dog. I don't know if you have watched that movie.
Unstoppable, is it?
It's called Unleashed also.
Unleashed,
Or
yes.
Danny the Dog. It had two names. And the way Amir has definitely seen that movie. Like,
Yeah,
the way
yeah.
he's fighting is 100% Danny the
I
Dog.
think they had to obviously speed up the footage just to match how it looks for Jet Li on screen. So there is a
Yeah.
lot of, especially the bus chase scenes and the scenes that are shot in like, the climax where he's chasing after Ghajini, and also the police beatdown scene in his own apartment. That's very, very Jet Li
Yeah.
in that. But they had to obviously speed up at least 1.5 times to make it look like he's competently running behind
Yeah.
him.
And it's an amazing action scene, just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
when they're like, he's like, how are you going to get into this, lair of the villain?
Mhm.
And he just walks in, like, he cannot give a crap at that moment. He just walks in and just like brutalizes everybody.
It's funny though, because for first time we get the introduction of Sanjay Singhania post the trauma, right? We are seeing him, he beats down somebody and then he takes out his really chunky Polaroid camera from his buckle. And we were talking after watching this would have, like, if Ghajini were to be made today, this needed did not need this device because we all have smartphones now.
Yeah.
And so that whole Polaroid thing is like, his life in this thick bundle of Polaroids is just hilarious.
Yeah, it's such a pre-cell phone,
Mhm.
pre-smartphone movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, it's quite funny. I was
I was, because we've talked about the romance, the action, and the horror. I think the comedy of this is what is left, and like I really wanted to point out two scenes. Obviously, the advertising bit where Kalpana is obviously part of some really homegrown advertising industry, where we all get the Chaddi Banyan ads and the jewelry ads and the local mall ads that come on cable TV, right, and all the detergent ads, and Asin is selling the heck out of it. I really love that, and that whole misunderstanding with Kunal Vijayakar, and she thinks like she's talking about Sanjay Singhania, and like she's selling the heck out of the advertising agency, and the whole Sunil Grover part where she asks Sunil Grover to be Sanjay Singhania at the annual function, and then Sunil Grover has to swap the his suit jacket with Aamir, and they had to obviously cut the scene because the Sunil Grover's suit on Aamir won't be the same fit. Sorry.
So much body shaming in this episode. It's
Height shaming.
But I was watching it and I was like, man, these guys like Sunil Grover, they've really paid their dues, man. Like to get where they are now, like all of these little bit roads that they had to take. Yeah, I'm really happy we watched this. I hadn't rewatched it since, I think, but I always have fond memory of it, and it's just watching it saying it is actually as good as I remember. That doesn't happen a lot. I would even go as far as to say this is, for me, one of Aamir's best. Like, this is a really, really good movie.
I have a question for you too, though, because obviously the Tamil movie is also called Ghajini, and this is called Ghajini. But here the villain is named as Ghajini, right? But in the Tamil, the villain is not Ghajini. The name, the significance of the name, I think what Wikipedia says, it's because Ghajini is how you say, Mahmud of Ghazni in Tamil. So somebody who is very relentless in their pursuit. I guess Ghajini in the Tamil version means it's talking about the protagonist and they're seeking revenge after all the events. But because it doesn't really translate in the Hindi version, the villain has to be called Ghajini because they had to retain the title of the movie for the remake, which was interesting because then it switched the title. In the Tamil, it's for the protagonist, and here it's for the villain. So that's interesting.
I remember watching it. I don't remember it that well, but I really felt Aamir's version was better than the. Like, it's just like you have a knife and you sharpen it a little bit more. And I think this was just, they used the budget well. They had a much better soundtrack. Everything looked, the action was heightened. The emotions were heightened. I don't think Surya had like a massive body transformation. Like, I think they used with the lines to accentuate his muscles more than actually having like a whole body reveal. So there were a lot of these elements that I think at that time I remember having it been improved. And I couldn't even find the old version streaming somewhere easily. I think it's probably the same old YouTube print that I watched back in the day that is still available. But yeah, I mean, I don't remember it that well. So if people do remember it, or say that the original was better, do drop us a line at youpodcasting@gmail.com. Anything else, Amrita? You want to talk about Ghajini, or we're done?
Done.
Yeah,
cool.
That's basically.
So, Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ.
Sujoy?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at 9E3K. And you can follow Khandaan Podcast on all our socials at Khandaan Podcast.
I'm at Asim Bernie on Twitter. Drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com and sign up to Patreon and support our work from $1. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with the Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman next.
Khandaan Podcast, always acting. Girl, you're my chum,